2021 afternoon, and we are going to discuss water management in rice, which is very broad topic, and I will try to finish it in 40 minutes. And so far, water management in rice is concerned, we already understand what kind of rice environments are there. It starts from upland up to the deep water rice. And extent of water productivity, we will see the differences in water productivity and water use efficiency and how much are the results of water productivity or data says. Global rice water use, some data on this, reasons of water scarcity in rice, and we will also see what are the best irrigation or water management options for rice. So rice ecosystem, they start from upland rice up to the flood-prone rice, and after upland rice, irrigated rice, rain-fed lowland rice, and flood-prone rice or deep water rice. So in this case, water availability increases from left to right or decreases from right to left. Now you see irrigated lowland rice characteristics are worldwide about 79 million hectare of irrigated land is there, and it produces 75% of world's rice production. Average yields are 3 to 9 tons per hectare and mean being 5 tons per hectare, mostly grown with the supplementary irrigation in the wet season and entirely on irrigation in dry season. So in wet season, you know, already rainfall is there. So partly water is supplied from rainfall and partly by irrigation. However, in Rabi season, wherever rice is grown, it is mostly or rather 100% irrigated rice in South India or East India. And significant areas of rice are grown in rotation with other crops. I think you know the dominant rice-based cropping system, rice wheat, rice, pulses, rice oil seeds, rice, certain fodder plants, and so on. So number of rotations are prevalent in different parts of the country which are rice-based. Now we talk about irrigated rice or irrigation systems. There are 5-6 systems which are available, which are in practice in Asia. Individual pump irrigation from shallow tube wells. Individual farmers have their own pumping system or tube well system from where they can extract the water by electricity or by diesel engine or by some other source. So next is small to medium scale community-based pump irrigation from deep wells. So community-based means many people are involved in this, and they harvest the water, they store the water, and sorry, here there is no water harvesting. They are pump irrigation from deep wells. So in some places the water table depth is very high, where one farmer cannot do it, and it is very expensive also. So small. Then in this case, small to medium scale community-based pumping irrigation from deep wells. Third one is small to medium scale community-based surface irrigation where water is derived from pond or reservoirs. So in this case also community-based pond or reservoirs are there where the water is harvested during rainy season, and farmers, they divide water among themselves. They have some mechanism of doing it. Then small to medium scale community-based surface irrigation where water is directly diverted from a river, like in case of Kaveri Delta, and in some other places where water is directly taken from the river, and then it is subdivided into different farms, different areas by farmers. Then large scale surface irrigation where water is diverted from reservoir or lake or canals. You have seen the case of canals in many cases, or lakes, they are also converted into canals. So large scale surface irrigation where water is diverted from reservoirs. So these are different irrigation system for irrigated rice, mostly maybe groundwater or surface water. In groundwater, you have tube wells of different heights, and in surface water, you have ponds, you have rivers, you have canals. Through these systems, water is made available to the rice crop. Now, let us see the rice field and its water balance. So water balance of a paddy consists of the following, means you need to see in balance how much is input, how much is output. So water inflows or inputs are irrigation, rainfall, and capillary rise. So these are the three contributions of water in the rice field, and how it is lost by evaporation, transpiration, seepage, and percolation losses. So water contributes to the growth and development of plant. Some part considered as non-productive water losses, Only transpiration is the productive water loss from the field. Other losses are associated losses, but they are not directly involved with the growth and development of the plant. So you can see in the pictures different inflows and outflows are shown. Groundwater under rice field. What happens to groundwater under rice field? So you can see in this picture, first is your ponded water on the surface of the soil, then muddy suspension. A thin layer of muddy suspension is there, and below which there may be groundwater. Depending upon the rainfall, depending upon the initial groundwater table, the depth may vary. Depth of this groundwater will vary from one place to place. I have seen some Tarai area of Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand, where during rainy season, the water table is almost zero. Water is on the surface of the soil. I have seen in Ramganga river beds and many places, zero water table is I noticed it. And there are certain places where such situation is there. And in some cases, it may be very deep, this groundwater table. So the blue one is water, surface water, ponded water, and groundwater. So groundwater plays a vital role, especially under declining availability. If groundwater is less than 20 centimeter deep, then hidden source of water to rice, roots can extract it less than 20 centimeter deep. If fields not flooded, capillary rise may reach root zone, provide extra water. Capillary water contribution is there. With shallow groundwater, crop growth with little irrigation can still grow well because of the hidden water supply of groundwater. In some cases, it may be very, very useful. Groundwater contribution. Now let us see the water productivity and water use efficiency. So there is definitely need to increase the rice water productivity. More crop per drop, more yield per unit of water. So important challenge to produce more food with less water. System performance should be evaluated in terms of water productivity. Whatever crop establishment method we use, whatever method of irrigation we use, we must assess the water use efficiency or water productivity in terms of system performance. So water productivity is a concept of partial factor productivity. Partial means individual component of the water lost. How much yield is produced by those kind of water losses. So water productivity is a concept of partial productivity and denotes the amount of value of rice grain over volume or value of water used. Volume or value of water used. You can express in terms of volume or in terms of value. We will see. Water productivity is equal to value of rice grain in kilogram per hectare. Sometimes you can have in tons per hectare, whatever you like, you can have the unit divided by value of water use. So value of water use can be expressed in terms of liters, in terms of cubic meter per hectare. To avoid confusion and interpretation in the computation of water productivity, it is important to understand different kind of water productivity. So now see water productivity and difference in water productivity and water use efficiency. So water productivity can be calculated for different components of water used by rice. Water is used by evaporation, water is used by transpiration, by percolation losses, or water is applied to the crop by irrigation, or water is supplied through irrigation plus rainfall. On the basis of all these parameters, we can work out the water productivity. So let us see the rice water productivity for transpiration. So weight of grains over means divided by cumulative weight of water transpired. So water transpired you can have in terms of liters, you can have in terms of cubic meter, whatever unit you want you can have. And also known as transpiration efficiency. So now you understand the formula of rice water productivity. So these are actually partial water productivity. You are not taking them in totality. You are taking one by other. Transpiration separately, ET separately, irrigation water separately, irrigation plus rainfall separately. So these are rice water productivities, not water use efficiency. Now, water productivity in terms of ET. So weight of grains over or divided by cumulative weight of water evapotranspired. So here evaporation plus transpiration losses. So this is actually your water use efficiency. So water use efficiency is limited to only ET, evapotranspiration. So water use efficiency is equal to grain yield or whatever you write in kg per hectare divided by ET, or consumptive use of water. Then, then comes your water productivity for irrigation. Rice water productivity with respect to irrigation. How much water I have applied? What is water productivity of this? So weight of grains over or divided by cumulative weight of water input by irrigation. Then water productivity of irrigation plus rainfall, which is also known as total water productivity. So weight of grains over or divided by cumulative weight of water input by irrigation and rainfall. So based upon this, we can calculate. Suppose irrigation, I applied say 20 irrigation. I applied 20 irrigation or say 15 irrigation. Each irrigation depth was 5 centimeter. So irrigation water is 75 centimeter. And then how much was the rainfall? Suppose during 3 months rainfall was say 50 centimeter, then 50 plus 75. So it makes you can make the total and divide the grain yield by that. So you will get you will get the water productivity. So water used by rice crop. Let us see how much water is used by rice crop. So transpiration, 500 to 1000 liters of water to produce 1 kg of rough rice. So these are the transpiration losses of water. It does not include other losses of water. Estimated ET of all rice field in the world is, this is the average of the world rice fields, 859 cubic kilometers per year. So very large quantity of water is removed from the paddy fields. 859 cubic kilometers per year of the ET losses from rice fields. On an average, 1432, 1432 or 1400 liters of ET to produce 1 kg rough rice. So this is in terms of ET, and this is roughly the same as world average water use of wheat, or but higher than that of maize and barley. Comparison of water productivity in different seasons and locations, not good. Comparing water productivity among seasons and locations can be misleading. We cannot compare water productivity in two seasons, Rabi season and Kharif season, because inputs and output may vary. And location, your temperature, your climatic conditions will also vary. So it is not good to compare water productivity of different seasons and different locations. So because of climatic yield potential, in one region, one variety may give more yield by default, other less. So evaporative demands may be different, crop management practices may be different. So we cannot compare the water productivity of different seasons and different locations. It is more relevant to study what the potential and actual water productivity values are in a particular environment. So within the environment, we can make comparisons, identify measures to close the gap between them rather than to compare water productivity value across the environments. Now you see global rice water use. Irrigated rice receives some 34 to 43% of the total world's irrigation water. Whatever irrigation water is there in the world, of that 34 to 43% goes to rice, and or 24 to 30% of the total world's freshwater withdrawal goes to rice. So this is in both respect. One is irrigated rice receives total world's irrigation water, and then total fresh water of the world. So you can see in this picture, volume of irrigation water use, world water withdrawal, how much is withdrawal in the blue, and world water use in irrigation this, and in the maroon color you see rice water use in irrigation. So means very high quantities of water, fresh water of the world goes to rice. So water scarcity in rice growing areas, you can see this map of the world. Physical water scarcity, red color. Physical water scarcity means there is no water at all. If you have money, keep your money in your pocket, you will not get water. Physical water scarcity. Economic water scarcity, water is there, but you don't have money to buy it. Then economic water scarcity. Other is little or no water scarcity. In blue part, there is no water scarcity. However, rice is not grown in blue parts, very a smaller area in some America or maybe in some other countries, but not estimated for white ones. So physical water scarcity means there is very less water is available. Water is not there. Economic water scarcity, water is there, but it is expensive. The user will reduce the use irrigation to cut back the cost. So water scarcity region, you can see the red one and the yellow one. India comes in yellow one, economic water availability. It is very expensive. Forms of water. I think you must have studied in your BSc AG or BSc Agriculture this increasing moisture content. What is unavailable water between the potential 15 to 1000, and available water is from 0.33 bar to 15 bar, and gravitational water which is lost by drainage, subsurface drainage, 0 to 0.33 bar. So, and then flooded conditions after 0 bar, you got flooded conditions. So on the right side, the water availability is increasing. I hope that you know the meaning of wilting percentage, field capacity, and saturated conditions. Water management practices in lowland rice. Conventional water management aims at keeping the fields continuously submerged. So these are the practices for water management in lowland rice. How to manage water in lowland rice. So aim is to keep the fields continuously submerged or continuously ponded with water or flooded with water. Initially a shallow layer, because initially the plants are very short. So initially a shallow layer of 2 to 3 centimeter, but with time the water depth is increased to 10 centimeter. This is the conventional management of water. So in this case, as the height of the plant increases, one goes on increasing the height of the ponded water. So conventional rice culture large losses of water by evaporation. Because the thick layer of 10 centimeter, you will get more losses. If more losses of water from the water surface and by vertical percolation below root zone. If you have 10 centimeter layer, then percolation losses will be more compared to if you have 3 centimeter layer, because in 10 centimeter layer the water head is at upper height, so the pressure will be more, so losses are more. If the head of the water is less, then the losses by percolation are less. So these water outflows do not contribute to crop growth and they are waste, they are unproductive. Water losses in lowland condition may be seepage, means lateral movement from one field to another field. Percolation means deeper movement of water and into the soil, and evaporation means just they are losing loss of water to the air. So these unproductive losses can be minimized through sound field water management. So how we can, if we understand the losses from the lowland rice, then these are the three losses, then we can try to reduce these losses like seepage, percolation, and evaporation. How we can reduce? So first thing is that proper land preparation practices are necessary. They will reduce proper land preparation practices will reduce the certain losses, because it also includes your bunding. Crop establishment of planting techniques, you know what are the water saving techniques of crop establishment, like direct seeded rice, aerobic rice, SRI. Of course, yield penalty is there. Objective, then you can follow certain crop establishment methods. Efficient water management practices are needed. Efficient water management practices means method of water. We are going to discuss after a few slides what are the efficient water management practices. Then efficient cultural practices during the crop growth. Efficient cultural practices like weed management. Weed management can reduce your transpiration losses and maybe some other transpiration losses can be reduced by weed management, and it also helps better growth and yield of the rice crop if we remove the weed. So that way water productivity will improve. I forgot to tell you, suppose water use efficiency is your yield divided by ET, which is also kind of water productivity. So in this case, water use efficiency can be increased either by increasing the yield or either by decreasing the ET. But we can decrease the ET to the extent that yield is not affected, growth is not affected adversely. So we need to optimize the level of ET and yield to get the maximum water use efficiency. So if we increase the yield, water use efficiency increases. By some other practices like insect pest management, your water management was good, your ET was fixed, but your crop was eaten by insects, so it was damaged by insects. So then your numerator, the numerator part, which is grain yield, will get less value. So therefore you will get less water use efficiency. So these cultural practices, efficient cultural practices during the crop growth, they help in increasing the water use efficiency and reducing the non-productive water losses. Addition of organic matter can help. Now, land preparation, construction of field channels. Field channels, proper field channels, we can construct good and leveling, good land leveling of the fields, good puddling, proper bund preparation. So this land preparation will save some losses by seepage, percolation, or some seepage, percolation, evaporation. Now, crop establishment method, how they can help. So different crop establishment methods require different water management practices. So it is by choosing the most appropriate method given the water availability. Depending upon water availability, I can choose the method of establishment by which I can save the water. Now, what are the irrigation strategies and methods for efficient water management? Now we are talking about efficient water management. So normally in case of irrigation methods, there are two broader methods in rice. One is flooding irrigation, flood method, most common method. Other is non-flooding irrigation method, which is practiced in aerobic rice. And this flooding irrigation mostly in transplanted rice. So in flooding irrigation, you can divide it further into two: continuous flooding and intermittent flooding. Intermittent flooding means a kind of alternate wetting and drying. In non-flooded irrigation, where flooding means here keeping the standing water in the field. Flooding means keeping the standing or ponding water in the field. So non-flooding irrigation, there may be two methods. One is unspecified irrigation methods. So we will see how these methods are unspecified, and other irrigation methods, non-flooding methods. So now we will take one by one. Let us take flooding irrigation. So in this, there are two: continuous flooding and intermittent flooding. Continuous flooding means keeping the water is always standing in the field. So field remains submerged for the largest growing period, except for brief period to allow fertilization or herbicide. Water is applied either immediately after tillage operations or after soil seeding of rice. In intermittent flooding or kind of alternate wetting and drying, no permanent water depth is maintained, no ponded water regularly. Alternatively, submergence and drying periods during whole growing season. Like I have shown you in alternate wetting and drying, system of rice intensification, semi-dry cultivation. So these intermittent flooding is followed. Alternate wetting and drying, AWD, is good approach in transplanted rice. Now, non-flooding irrigation. So unspecified irrigation methods. Here, method is not specified, but it is practiced in aerobic rice. No water layer is maintained on the field. Irrigation are applied periodically or whenever needed at the appearance of soil cracking or at predefined soil moisture tensions. So this is actually practiced in aerobic rice, where your objective is to bring the moisture content of the soil to the level of field capacity by applying water. By applying irrigation, you reach the level of field capacity in the soil. And the best sign for farmers is cracking. When the cracking starts in the soil, that is the right time to apply water under aerobic rice conditions. Now, other irrigation methods which are non-flooding kind, so no water layer is maintained. Irrigation water is applied periodically or whenever needed by sprinkler or drip or furrow irrigation system. These are quite efficient system: sprinkler system, drip system, or furrow irrigation system. They consume very less quantity of water, and there is very high degree of water saving by sprinkler, drip, or furrow irrigation. But at the moment, it is very difficult to grow rice with a sprinkler, drip, or furrow irrigation system. Now some subsurface irrigation system has come up, which is at nascent stage, early stage, under experimental stage. And let us hope that subsurface irrigation system, kind of drip system, is being researched by people. So far, sprinkler system is concerned. Rice can be grown by sprinkler system. There are examples, but the initial cost is high, and also sometimes yields are also reduced by sprinkler system. Drip system is good, particularly under conservation agriculture practices, where rice is grown by direct seeding method. So drips can be extended, but again costly, and there are certain issues which may come up due to drip system. First thing is it is expensive. Second thing is it wets very small area of the soil, and there may be problem of nutrient deficiency, nematodes, or some other problems by drip irrigation system. So still it is not very popular in rice. However, in widely spaced crop, it is used in fruit crops, some vegetable crops. And furrow irrigation, raised bed system, this and that, they are in practice, and furrow irrigation is efficient system. But we need to see about the productivity of rice in furrow irrigation. Now, irrigation water productivity, these are the data, friends, about irrigation water productivity under different water management options. So now see the comparative performance so far water productivity is concerned. Continuous flooding water productivity was lowest, just 0.99 kilogram per cubic meter water. Per cubic meter water means 1000 liter water. So 1000 liter of water will give you 0.99 or 1 kg grain of rice. This is scientific study. And then intermittent flooding will give you 1.27 kilograms of rice by using 1000 liters of water. Aerobic rice irrigation method unspecified. Aerobic rice will give you still higher productivity, 1.67 kilograms of rice by using just 1000 liters of water. Aerobic rice irrigation method is specified. Here it may be drip system. So it gives you 3.49 kilograms of the grain, 3.5 times more grain than the continuous flooding. This 1000 liters will give you 3.49 kilograms of grain. Or you can see water used to produce 1 kg rice. So in continuous flooding, you need highest amount of water, 1000 liters, then 787 liters in intermittent. Aerobic rice, you get 599 or 600 liters. However, in irrigation method specified, that is drip system, you need just 286 liters of water to produce 1 kg of rice. So this is important. If for you, if water is important, then go for the last method. If for you the yield is more important, I think there is no answer to continuous flooding. If you in totality, if you want more yield, let us go for continuous flooding. If you want more water productivity, go for aerobic rice, because there are trade-offs. If you increase one thing, other thing decreases. So you need to make compromise in this. It is not that I will follow aerobic rice and I will get more rice with less water, but we need to see the total quantity of rice that is going to be produced by aerobic method. So we need to see totality, and finally economics is the best decider. Economics will decide the things. This slide I have already shown you. More water, more yield. But of course, more water, less water productivity. More water input, less water productivity. Water management during crop growth period. You have transplanted, you have sown the crop. How to go for management? Suppose water is not limited. I have enough water. I have free electricity. I need not to spend any money on the water. Then continuous ponding gives you best growth and will result in highest yields. So sometimes in interviews, students get confused how to answer it. So this is the answer, that water not limited. If you have enough water, continuous ponding gives best growth and will result in the highest yield. Flooding also helps. What are the advantages? Why it gives more yield? So flooding also helps suppress weed growth. This is number one advantage. Improves the efficiency of use of nitrogen, and in some environments helps protect the crop from fluctuation in temperature. It moderates the temperature. Water is a good weapon for rice crop, because watering in soil will increase the nutrient availability, and also it will manage or moderate the temperature. Sometimes temperature may be too high or too low. That can be moderated by the presence of water. flooding. Now, under these conditions, what are the water management during the crop growth period where you have plenty of water? So, early vegetative growth, conventional rice culture, after transplanting 3 centimeter layer initially and gradually increase to 5 to 10 centimeter. As the height increases, one can increase the depth of ponded water. Direct wet seeding. It is the method. Your direct wet seeding was done. You are aware of this method. The soil should be kept just near the saturation from sowing to 10 days after emergence of the seedling. And then the depth of ponded water should gradually be increased with the increase in height. So this is water management of early vegetative growth in direct wet seeded rice. And with direct dry seeding, how to manage the water? Soil should be moist but not saturated from sowing till emergence, as the seed may rot in the soil. This is the disadvantage. Because in wet seeding, you are putting the seed on the surface of the soil. So those seed will not rot. But here you are putting the seed into the soil. And this water and high temperature may result in rotting of the seed. So soil should be moist but not saturated from sowing till emergence, because the seed may not get oxygen also, as the seed may rot in the soil, mainly because of oxygen deficiency. So after sowing, apply a flush irrigation if there is no rainfall to wet the soil. Saturate the soil when plants have developed 3 leaves and gradually increase the depth of ponded water with increasing plant height. So we have seen that how under 3 different establishment methods, the water management is practiced at early vegetative growth. Now, at reproductive stage, what can be done? Keep the water level in the fields at 5 centimeter all times. So there should not be any deficiency of water at reproductive stage. In all kind of method of establishment, there should be sufficient water supply in the field during reproductive phase. Lowland rice sensitive to water shortage at flowering stage. Drought effects occur when water drops below saturation. So drought at flowering increases spikelet sterility, decrease percentage of spikelets, and decrease grains per panicle and yield. So there should not be any shortage of water at reproductive stage or flowering stage. In any case, in any method of transplanting or any method of establishment. Now ripening stage. So field does not necessarily require flooding at this stage, and soil that is 80 to 90% saturated is sufficient. So therefore, I told you that 2 weeks before harvest or maturity, there is no need to apply water in any kind of rice. So for easy operations, keeping the fields flooded may still be the simplest management approach. Drainage 10 to 15 days before harvest. If water is there, standing water is there, then drain it out before 2 weeks before harvesting. So it hastens maturity and grain ripening and prevents excessive nitrogen uptake and makes the land better accessible, because you need to take the next crop also. Harvesting of rice will be easier, and then sowing of the next crop. Now, little more about water management in aerobic rice. Under aerobic rice systems, seepage, percolation, evaporation losses are minimized because there is no ponded water layer. So this percolation losses are minimized, and the large amount of water used for wetland preparation is eliminated. There is no need for puddling. And you can see in the picture, right side picture, this is aerobic rice. So what is the difference between aerobic rice and upland rice? Now I make the difference again. I think I have already explained much, but just to refresh your memories, you can see upland rice is grown in rain-fed, means it is dependent upon rainfall only. Naturally well-drained soils with bundled or unbundled fields without surface water accumulation. It is drought-prone, planted in sloping land with erosion problems and with soils that have both physical and chemical properties. So this is how upland rice is defined. Then aerobic rice, I have already defined, is planted at more favorable environments where farmers can afford to buy external inputs such as fertilizers and can have access to supplementary irrigation if rainfall is not sufficient. That means it is irrigated rice. Aerobic rice can be seen as a favorable or high yielding upland rice. It can be treated as high yielding upland rice. Of course, it is grown in lowland conditions. How is aerobic rice managed? Managed like wheat or maize crop. If the crop is grown during dry season, a light application should be given after sowing to promote emergence. What happens if you have not applied pre-sowing irrigation and there is shortage of water, so you can flood your field, you can apply water, light irrigation immediately after sowing of the crop. Weed control is done using herbicide. There is no option. You need to go for herbicide. Or now IRA, I think someday I told you about IRA is developing Imazathar pyre resistant varieties of rice. Imazathar pyre is a herbicide which will kill all kind of plants, including rice. But IRA has identified some lines which are tolerant to Imazathar pyre herbicide, and that line will be used for direct seeded rice or aerobic rice, in which that herbicide will be used to control the weeds. Other is saturated soil culture. It was proposed by somebody that it is a water saving strategy, and how water can be managed under these conditions, how saturated soil culture saves water. So soil kept near the saturation, reducing the hydraulic head of the ponded water, which decreases the seepage and percolation losses. A shallow irrigation is given to obtain just 1 centimeter of ponded water depth a day, or after the disappearance of ponded water, then one can apply the water. So saturated soil culture, on an average, saturated soil culture can decrease water input by 23% is the advantage water saving from continuous flooded soils, with non-significant yield reduction of 6%. Just 6% yield penalty may be there, but you can save 23% water by saturated soil culture. But perhaps they have also ignored the weed growth. Weed will come very heavily on these conditions, saturated soil cultures. The figure, you can see this figure on the right side, saturated soil condition, no standing water, deep percolation losses is zero, while in continuously flooded condition, percolation is very high. So this picture is in three parts. First part, you can see deep standing water, the blue depth is high, so percolation losses are high. See the middle part, shallow standing water, percolation losses are low, because the hydraulic head is the height is less, so pressure on water is less, so less losses due to percolation. And see the last case, no standing water, just saturated condition, so percolation losses are minimum or are the least. So better to keep a shallow water depth. Alternate wetting and drying. Now see the alternate wetting and drying. This can be practiced in any. It can be practiced in transplanted rice, it can be practiced in aerobic rice, or it can be practiced in SRI method. So this water strategy is not fixed for any one kind of crop establishment. So water saving technology in irrigated lowland rice. Normally it is for lowland rice, but also for SRI. Irrigation water applied to flood the field a certain number of days after the disappearance of ponded water. Normally, farmers apply 2 days after disappearance of the ponded water, or 3 days after disappearance of the ponded water. So field is alternatively flooded under non-flooded conditions. Number of days of non-flooded soil in alternate wetting and drying between irrigation can vary from 1 to 10 days. Normally, it is 2 to 3 days, depending upon soil types. In certain soils, heavier soils, you can have higher frequency, and means you can increase the number of days. In sandy soils, you can decrease the number. So at drying cycles of alternate wetting and drying, seepage and percolation losses are reduced. Compared to continuous flooding, it reduces water input by 15 to 30% without yield loss. So this is a good system, and this is what farmers practice in Punjab, Haryana, or other parts where irrigated rice is grown. In irrigated rice in Rabi season in South India, or this wet rice in North India, it is mostly alternate wetting and drying practiced in light to medium texture soils. In heavy texture soils where low-lying areas are there is sufficient standing water. But in sandy loam soils of Punjab or light texture soils, this water does not remain standing for a long time. So it immediately disappears within 1 or 2 days. Then after disappearance, say 2 to 3 days after disappearance, water can be applied. So that is your alternate wetting and drying technique. Alternate wetting and drying is in areas where the amount of irrigation water available is less than the full supply level required for continuous submergence. Means the indirect message is if you have sufficient water, free water, go for continuous submergence. If it is not there, then practice alternate wetting and drying. In any irrigation system, to equitably distribute water and increase irrigated areas, in marginally irrigated areas such as those at the tail end of any irrigation system and small farm reservoirs. So wherever water scarcity is there, we can go for alternate wetting and drying. Principles of alternate wetting and drying as water saving technology. It is a water saving technology. Understanding the stages of plant growth critical to water stage. So we need to coincide with the irrigation application time with the critical growth phase. Suppose it is flowering. So at flowering, irrigation should be immediately given. You remember that it takes very small time for pollination and fertilization. So during that period, there should not be any shortage of water. Early vegetative growth, especially after transplanting, to recovery period and reproductive stage. Flowering stage, water stress will result to spikelet sterility. So apply water at this stage. At ripening stage, the rice plant does not necessarily require flooding. Benefits of safe alternate wetting and drying, saving of water 15 to 40% without reducing the yield, reduces the cost of irrigation, particularly in pump irrigation system, promote productive use of irrigation water, makes the rice plant more tolerant to water stress conditions because it is following the cycles of stress and excess. So that way it is making your plant tolerant to stresses. Correct some problem on soil nutrient imbalances like zinc deficiency, because zinc deficiency mostly prevalent in flooded conditions. If your rice is flooded with water, you will always have zinc deficiency in these soils. If conditions are aerobic, then there is no zinc deficiency. Then you will have iron deficiency. Iron deficiency and zinc deficiency happens in reverse. Means in flooded rice, you get zinc iron availability, sufficient iron availability, but deficiency of zinc. In aerobic soils where there is no water, standing water, you will get iron deficiency, not zinc deficiency, provided your soils are having sufficient levels of zinc. So correct some problems on soil nutrient imbalances like zinc deficiency can be corrected, increases the logic resistance of the rice plant because in this case root growth will be more. Aerobic conditions are created in between intermittently. Now identify best option at different levels of water availability in the field. According to the water availability, we can change the method of irrigation. So it depends on type and level of water scarcity and on the socio-economy of their production environment. So identify best option of different levels of water availability in the field. High availability of water, then practice continuous flooding of lowland rice and obtain high yields. See, remember this, if high availability of water, practice continuous flooding of lowland rice and obtain high yields. Number two, when water is more than enough, just more than enough, water may be saved to increase irrigated areas. We can use that excess water to some other areas, like practice sound water management, crack plowing, through thorough puddling, good land leveling, bund maintenance, and construction of field channels to minimize water losses. Farmers can practice water-saving technologies such as saturated soil culture and safe alternate wetting and drying. Farmers can adopt appropriate crop establishment method, including direct dry or wet seeding and raised bed system. So in this case, water is more than enough. Water may be saved to increase irrigated areas. Now, number three option could be water scarcity. Farmers have little choice but to adapt to receiving less water than they could need to keep their fields continuously flooded. Here, there is no water. Farmers can practice alternate wetting and drying in irrigated and aerobic rice technology in areas with supplementary irrigation of favorable rain-fed lowlands. Farmers can practice crop diversification. Friends, this crop diversification plays very important role in water saving. If you change your rotation, if you follow the rotations, your water requirement of crops changes. Mainly because of improved soil properties. So when there is extremely short water supply, like in the rain-fed areas, farmers can plant upland rice varieties. This is another choice. So friends, just see this picture. This picture I took personally near Karnal, where you can see the soils are saline. So in this case, what happened? Farmers has transplanted his crop by applying water from outside, and some rainfall was there. And onset of monsoon happened, rainfall started, but suddenly there was break in the rainfall. It could not rain for whole July. Whole July month, he transplanted his crop in the late June, and whole July there was no rainfall. So what was left with the farmers? He had no choice. See the situation of the crop, and he allowed animals to graze his rice because of water scarcity. These animals removed his rice crop. Whatever was left, he just, because of water scarcity, he could not continue supplying the water to the crop. Therefore, he fed the crop to the animals. So why this situation happened? Because there was no rainfall. He assumed that in the beginning I have money, I can buy some water. But later on, it became difficult because there was no rainfall. So he thought that why to apply more, 5, 10 more waters to the crop. And so he fed it to the cattle. This can also happen with the rice crops, scarcity of water. So what could have happened if he was informed by meteorological department that this year you will get less rain, then he could have switched over to direct seeded rice or some other method of rice cultivation under which he can grow rice but with less water. So these are the things we should keep in mind. And what happened, now I want to tell you more, that after some time there was rainfall in the month of August. In the early August, after the first shower, he planted his mung bean crop there. Mung bean can be grown from July to August. It can be sown in early August also. This mung bean or urd bean can be sown in early August also, although the best time of sowing in north is around 15 July to 30 July, but it can be sown in August also, early August. So what happened after this harvest of rice crop in August? He got rainfall and he planted this green gram. And after a few days of his planting, there was heavy rainfall. So his green gram was also lost. His pulses are very sensitive to excess water. So he was in trouble from both the sides. First, his rice crop was lost, and second, his mung bean was lost. So what will happen to this farmer? Can you imagine to double his income? Can you imagine any policy, any kind of insurance policy can compensate this farmer? Just think over it. So I think I must thank you very much. And Vipin, you can stop recording, then we can have